Hello everyone, welcome back to The Lost Tribe. Today, I'll be doing something different than my usual standard of my lightsaber commission review builds. Today, we'll be discussing the mechanics of lightsabers as seen in Star Wars Legends. I'll be covering Legends because I feel the science fiction and in-universe mechanics are more cohesively covered as opposed to Disney canon, which has seen a major redundancy in my opinion as to how lightsabers work. With 30,000 years of focus story content developed over 3 decades, with only a few minor retcons needed to fix early issues, I vastly prefer Legends as my reference material, and while I'm not discounting canon, I prefer the pseudo-science fiction of Legends. To get started, we'll cover the origins of the modern lightsaber, which was in fact heralded from Sith designs. When the original Dark Jedi on Tython, the followers of Bogan, were exiled from the Jedi Order, they made their way to the unknown regions where they settled in the planets of Korriban and Ziost. At that time, they became lords of the resident Sith species and thus became the first Lords of the Sith. Among the possessions they took with them were their proto-sabers, essentially Beta model precursors of lightsabers. The proto-sabers functioned much the same way as modern lightsabers, but required the use of belt-mounted battery packs to deal with the energy consumption issues. Over the next 20,000 years, the Sith then developed the modern lightsaber, replacing the belt-mounted batteries with smaller energy cells that could fit inside the hilt. This solved both power consumption issues while creating modern lightsaber design and mechanics, a self-contained weapon, which was then reverse-engineered and adopted by the Jedi Order in 5000 BBY during the Great Hyperspace War. A modern lightsaber functions using a gas energy cell as a power source. The energy from the cell is transferred through a set of focusing lenses and energizers that convert the energy into pure plasma, which is then focused through a series of 1 to 3 focusing crystals that give a lightsaber blade both its color and energy properties. Lightsaber crystals are force-imbued gems of many origins, with the nature of the carbon composition and elements of the gem determining the properties of the blade, and the color of the gems, which accordingly determined the blade color. Multiple different colored gems could be used to change the colors of the blade and its properties. The late Jedi Order received their gems from Ilum, a planet whose geological sites produced exclusively emerald and sapphires, severely limiting blade colors to greens and blues and standardizing lightsaber performance across the board. However, unlike common belief, blade color was truly a personal preference, and while some traditions held blade color akin to station, any Jedi or Sith could change their crystals at will, and any properly force-imbued gem could be used in a lightsaber, so a Jedi can use a ruby for their blade, and a Sith could use a sapphire if preferred. However, standard tradition often meant Sith and Jedi used the same set of colors in regards to their order. Most Sith, not having access to traditional crystal harvesting sites used by the Jedi, often created their own crystals with a geological compressor, kiln, and careful use of the Force. These synthetic crystals were created by placing raw minerals such as corundum, aluminum oxide, into a geological compressor, which would speed up the creation of a gem from hundreds of years to only a few hours. Careful use of the Force would allow an individual to guide the creation of the crystal to a type of gem of their choice, determining color and properties. Most Sith created red bloodshine blades, which were often just synthetic rubies. However, any type of gem could be created, as corundum, aluminum oxide, was also the chief mineral in creating most precious gems. For example, Luke Skywalker followed the same process to create his green emerald crystal on Tatooine in Obi-Wan's hut, since at the time the Empire controlled all crystal harvesting sites. There were many naturally force-sensitive crystals, and most of these natural crystals, such as the Adigan crystals from the Adiga system, had a common balance of cutting power and stability, and the facets of any given crystal could determine blade focus and length. Multiple crystals or facets, in conjunction with hilt-installed circuitry, could be used to change those properties. However, most synthetic crystals could be created to an individual's standards. Most Sith created more powerful blades at the expense of handling, while Jedi, most notably Luke Skywalker, created a more fine-tuned blade with superior handling to even his father's own Ilum crystal lightsaber. Once the plasma energy of the lightsaber had been properly focused by the focusing crystals, the energy was then passed through field energizers and modulators located in the emitter matrix of the hilt that then produced the plasma as a coherent blade of energy. The energy was held in place and shaped by a force containment field which contained the immense heat of the plasma energy blade. The energy was then arced back by the containment field to a negatively charged fissure ringing the emitter, which channeled the energy back to the power cell within the lower hilt, which completed the full circuit. When properly assembled, the lightsaber gave off no heat, the blade was entirely weightless, and the saber did not expend any energy while idle. Only when the blade containment field was interrupted, such as when the saber cut through an object, did plasma leak out, thus melting the object it interacted with and expending energy from the power cell. A lightsaber when ignited had an entirely weightless blade. However, this was a trade-off, and detrimental to anyone not properly trained in the use of the weapon, as the blade containment field produced an intense gyroscopic effect that would necessitate focus, dexterity, and strength on the part of the user to counteract. A lightsaber once swung or spun would feel as though the blade was being pulled along by a powerful force, and was dangerous to untrained individuals, who, underestimating the weapon, would often cut off their own limbs or those of people standing close by. It was for all the reasons above that an improperly assembled lightsaber would be extremely devastating. When Darth Maul was aboard Cog Hive 7, his illegal arms contact was in the process of producing a line of standardized lightsaber hilts to be sold on the black market. The contact, not being force sensitive and not having a true understanding of the weapon, only produced failures that often melted in the wielder's hands, blew up, or otherwise had unstable containment fields so the blade would suddenly arc backwards or forwards, maiming or killing the wielder. Whether or not certain parts like the emitter matrices were found pre-assembled, or if the microcircuitry and electronics of most lightsabers were custom fabricated along with the hilts, is generally unknown, and throughout its history, many organizations who used the weapon had their own traditions and philosophies regarding it, which I will cover in a future video. Thank you all for watching, and may the Force serve you well.